Good morning. Welcome to the 2018 Annual Breakfast with the Mayor. For those who are attending their first chamber event, my name is Evan Frederick. I'm the president of the Baltimore City Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is to act as an engine for economic and business development within the city of Baltimore. We help businesses of all sizes by providing access to resources, networking opportunities, and professional development. If you're not a member, I encourage you to consider joining. If you are a member, I encourage you to get engaged. We are growing fast, nearing 300 members, as we've almost tripled over the past 2 years, and there's no slowing us down. As a marketer, it's actually a great time for your business to take advantage of our momentum and our current engagement and involvement throughout the Baltimore business community. Our partnerships are stronger than ever. On Tuesday, in partnership with the Port Covington Development Team, Department of Housing and Community Development, Small Business Development Center, along with 2 other chambers, the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber and the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we started conversations around capital between 100 businesses and 20+ lenders. And yesterday, I participated in the press conference at City Hall with Madam Mayor and Council President Young, where I volunteered all of you to collect Toys for Tots during the holidays for our children throughout the city. As I recently became a father, as some of you know, to little Miss Fiona Rose, these acts of kindness help mold our children. These are just two great examples of where our organization is heading. We want to be the organization where passion and purpose intersects with business so that we can ultimately better the community in which we serve and operate, the city of Baltimore. I will be your master of ceremonies for this morning's event. We have a great lineup ahead of us and would like to give you an idea of what to expect. The agenda can also be found on page 2 of the program. But before I jump right into the agenda, I would like to recognize a few individuals in our presence today. If we could all hold our applause until the end, we can continue moving right along. However, I do want us to all give our guest of honor, who very shortly, like every time she takes the stage, will be delivering a very impactful and energizing keynote address. A warm welcome and round of applause for Baltimore's biggest advocate, the Mayor of Baltimore, the Honorable Catherine A. Pugh. Also included in today's program, you'll have the opportunity to hear from President and CEO of the Baltimore Development Corporation, William H. Cole IV, and Director of Mayor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business, Paul Taylor. After Mayor Pugh's keynote address, once we snap a few pictures, we'll have the opportunity to hear from a few chamber members and one of the resource partners on the success they've been able to generate through their engagement with our organization. Christina Lambie with Spirit Cruises, Kimberly Scroggins with the ARC Baltimore, and Kurt Summer with the Baltimore Integration Partnership. In addition, we're going to have the opportunity to recognize and thank our biggest supporters, whom we are very appreciative and grateful to have with us today: Baltimore Gas and Electric, Johns Hopkins University of Medicine, the McDonald's Corporation, and the Mayor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business. Also in the room today, I would like to recognize our board members. If you all could please stand. For those who are considering membership or those members who would like to discuss joining the committee, these are the folks you would want to speak with. As you can see, we have a very engaged and committed board, which is led by, and raise your hand, Board Chair Richard Kraft of Academy Financial, Vice Chair Jennifer Curry of Baker Donaldson, Treasurer Tracy Pruitt of the ARC Baltimore, Secretary Hannah Callahan with North Central Insurance Agency, and our past chair, Yvette Clark, with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. Our committee chairs here today include Membership Chair Will Holmes of Will Holmes Consulting, Events Chair Shannon Gallagher of Hyatt Regency, and Public Policy Chair Hal Resnick with Baysart. Also in attendance with us is our President Emeritus, Charlie Owens, along with our other board members that are here today, and we appreciate all their support and dedication to our organization. In addition, we have Chuck Connor, Deputy State Director from Senator Chris Van Hollen's office. Chuck. Verna Jones-Rodwell, Director of Baltimore Main Streets. Larissa Salamanca, Director of Business Development at Baltimore Development Corporation. James Peterson with the Small Business Resource Center. Antoine Banks with Comcast. Donald Fry with the Greater Baltimore Committee. Dr. James Johnson, the Interim President, and Don Kerstetter, VP of Strategic Partnerships at the Baltimore City Community College. Stacy Smith, Executive Director of Cybersecurity Association of Maryland. My neighbor in Port Covington at City Garage, Rashida Z, with Citywide Youth. Karina Morga with the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. The leadership for the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce, Kendrick Tillman and Deborah Keller Green. Scott Phillips with the MBDA Advanced Manufacturing Center. CEO of the ARC Baltimore, Kathleen Durkin. And President of MECU of Baltimore, John Hamilton. In addition, there's many others in the room that I didn't mention. We welcome your attendance today and we appreciate all of your support. I would like to thank our photographer for today's event, Rob Morton of Photography by Trey Lynn, who's also a board member. I want to give special thanks to Rex Anderson for voicing our commercial, Strategic Factory, our member for the beautiful programs, and especially marketing and printing for our awards. And of course, I would like to thank our friends at the Horseshoe for their hospitality today, Shakira Garcia, Karis McDowell, and Henry Alaya. Thank you all. Without the support of our event sponsors, we wouldn't be able to put together an event like today. So last, but certainly not least, thank you our silver sponsors, the Baltimore Development Corporation, MECU of Baltimore, the Horseshoe Casino, the Maglev Train. We want to thank you our bronze sponsors, the ARC Baltimore, Orange Element, Baltimore City Community College, Paul's Place, Allen Hirsch Advisors, and Verizon, as well as our program advertiser, the Waldorf School of Baltimore. So again, we thank you. We appreciate all of you in attendance, and let's get on with today's show. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to a gentleman who probably does not need an introduction to this room, as I'm sure most of you have worked with him at some point during his 20-plus years of helping businesses in Baltimore. Whether it was when he was running the Small Business Resource Center or his current position as the director for the Office of Small Minority and Women Business for the City of Baltimore. As the director and member of the Mayor's Cabinet, Paul Taylor manages the strategic direction and daily operations for the Mayor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business. The role of this office was expanded to includes the Small Business Resource Center, a 501c3, in Baltimore Main Street. He advocates for small businesses in the city of Baltimore and throughout the state of Maryland. He's a recipient of the SBA Small Business Champion of the Year for 2007 and the district's Director Unsung Hero in 2009, and Minority Small Business Champion of the Year award in 2007. Paul has also been awarded with the Greater Baltimore Committee's Bridging the Gap Achievement Award, and through his leadership, he has worked with the past administration of the NLC's Equitable Economic Development Fellowship Program, SourceLink, to connect entrepreneurs to city and state resources. He's the founding member of the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce and the current member to the Baltimore City's Board of Directors. Without further ado, Paul Taylor.
Good morning, everybody. So the only person that Evan didn't recognize is his mom, Sue, right? So I want to make sure that he recognized her because she's very important. By the way, the whole time that Evan was having his baby, we, at the board members, we got to follow the whole episode every step of the way. And we heard about it every board meeting, right? So anyway, I'm really, really happy to be here this morning. I'm glad to see that everybody's here and your smiling faces. This is, it's going to be a very warm day, right? So it's going to be a nice day today, and I'm glad that all of you are here. I'm here really to introduce Bill Cole, but before I get there, I'm going to just let you know that I have a team of people who work with me to make sure that all of the things that we're trying to do in the city and all the things that the mayor's asked us to do, we're putting forward. So my team is sitting over here at this table. I want everybody just raise your hand, stand up or something, right, so everybody will see. And also we do a lot of work with Scott Phillips and his team in terms of advanced manufacturing. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge all of you guys also. So these are very important initiatives that the city has because one of the things that we see, I mean, you see all the cranes going on, you see all the work going on around Baltimore City. We know that Baltimore is on the rise, and we know that there are lots of good things that are happening in Baltimore right now. The mayor works tirelessly. I mean, she probably came from a meeting this morning at 8 o'clock already. So she'll tell you a little about those meetings that she has at 8 o'clock, where she makes sure that everybody is unfocused about what they're about to do. But I want to make sure that you know that this administration has been working very, very hard with all of the economic initiatives, all of the things that we're doing to make sure that we make a difference for the lives of people, not just downtown, but all of the other places that are going on in Baltimore City, the neighborhoods that haven't been touched that she's going to talk to you about. I do want to introduce Bill Cole, because one of the things that a lot of people don't know, that Baltimore Development Corporation does a lot of work around Baltimore City, and people hear about things in the paper and they hear about downtown, but what you really don't hear about is that he has a tremendous team of people who are doing a lot of things all over the city. And if you, there's every neighborhood that you go and you'll see their fingerprint there someplace. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Bill Cole, who's going to come up and give you some good information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. It is a privilege and honor to be back here today. Usually at this spot, I would be giving you kind of a snapshot of development in Baltimore, and we'd be going through a slideshow presentation, but we're not doing that this year. Evan actually suggested that I give you a quick update of BDC so that everybody understands what it is and what we do, and Paul mentioned it, because we really aren't about downtown and about the waterfront. The vast majority of our staff time, energy, and talent is spent in neighborhoods across the city. And my team is, many of my team are here. If you could stand, BDC team, just so everybody can see some of my folks. This is a very small portion of the group, but BDC, thank you. So you know BDC for what you see in the paper, the big stuff, the Hilton Hotel, this facility, Port Covington, Top Golf, right out the back door. Madam Mayor, Top Golf, right out the back door, right? But what you don't know about us is the other things we do on behalf of the city and behalf of the taxpayers. We dispose of property on behalf of the city, trying to get commercial properties back in the hands of people who can actually use it and occupy it. We manage the foreign trade zone for the entire region, not just the city of Baltimore, but for a number of counties up and down the port area. The entire region's foreign trade zone managed, and many of you know Larissa Salamanca. She has handled that for years with Larry Collins. We're responsible for managing and updating and submitting the 5-year comprehensive economic development strategy for the city of Baltimore. The current strategic plan expires at the end of 2019, so we're starting right now with the next strategic plan that will have the mayor's fingerprints all over it, and I can assure you it will have small business as the forefront of what we do in that sense. We are the home to one of the country's very first Opportunity Zone coordinators. We announced that about 2 weeks ago. I think many of you have been reading about Opportunity Zones and Opportunity Funds. Baltimore, thanks to the mayor's encouragement, we got a $100,000 grant from the Able Foundation to hire Ben Siegel. Some of you have met Ben in his work at Hopkins or in the Obama White House. Is now Baltimore City's Opportunity Zone coordinator. He is focused on bringing those opportunity funds to neighborhoods and businesses right here in Baltimore City. We are also now the home, thankfully, to Made in Baltimore. Andy Cook has brought his program that he started in the planning department to BDC, which we're hoping to stand up to be a perpetual living entity like Small Business Resource Center is, and let Andy grow in BDC and hopefully find storefronts across the city to help small businesses show their wares. But again, the vast majority of our time is spent in neighborhoods, doing neighborhood development and helping the City Department of Housing and Community Development, helping the mayor achieve her vision of reaching into neighborhoods that haven't seen investment for decades. We've provided more than 100 microloans to small businesses in this city and more than 1,000 facade improvement grants. Looking out here, I see many of you have been frequent flyers in our facade improvement grant program. We love giving out those grants. And if you look in your program and you turn it inside front cover, I don't know how we got that placement, but inside front cover, you'll see Baltimore means business. That's really the message we're sharing when the mayor and I travel around the country. And you won't see any of the big glistening projects. You'll see neighborhood projects. We really want people to understand that Baltimore is a city of neighborhoods. Baltimore is a city where, yeah, we have a lot of cranes in the sky, and we're very proud of that type of business attraction and development. But what we're really focusing on is helping neighborhoods grow by supporting small businesses. We've also provided assistance to annually, hundreds of small businesses in navigating city government with a great partnership with Paul Taylor and the resources that he's able to provide. So we do love helping small businesses grow because you drive our local economy. You add jobs and contribute directly to the vitality of neighborhoods throughout the city of Baltimore. And our featured guest shares that vision and drives that forward in the city each and every day. She really doesn't need an introduction. And I like to joke, if you read through her bio, you'll find somewhere in there that she used to be a cheerleader. I don't know if she gets embarrassed when I say that, but she's not a cheerleader. She's the quarterback of the city of Baltimore, and I consider her an elite quarterback. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Catherine Pugh.
Good morning, everyone. So I didn't get to do that 8 a.m. meeting that I usually do every morning at the Baltimore Police Department, and because I thought I should try to get here on time. But let me just say this to you all. My first priority right now in Baltimore is reducing violence and getting people to understand that this is a $3.8 billion business. And if we would see it like that, we'd understand what it is we must do, what it is we are doing, and what we have done. And the reason I say that is because if you were to look at our city's budget, for example, it says we have 2,800 police officers. We have not had 2,800 police officers since 2002. And in the last 5 years, before I became mayor, 4 years, we lost 545 police officers. Every 100 officers represents about $10 million in our budget. And so when people are quibbling over overtime, and do we have outliers that take advantage of it? Absolutely. But the reality is that when you don't have what you need, it's going to create overtime. And I think we're running an overtime budget close to about 25 or 30 million, probably about 40 million by the time we're done. And again, if you look at the numbers, 40 million, add that to every 100 officers, and you got about 2,400. 2,400 with 12 to 15% of them on sick leave, because we have to draft officers because we've not kept up with our attrition rate. The reason I share this with you is because I understand where we are in our city and what needs to take place. In the beginning of the year, nobody was looking at overtime or really focused on overtime, and all of a sudden everybody's focused on how we reduce overtime. And if you go back and look at the numbers, it's a commensurate with where we are. You know, early from the first 4 or 5 months of the year when nobody was really looking at overtime, and we were drafting officers and making folks and asking them to work overtime, our homicide rate dropped by 23% because those officers were out on the streets trying to make sure that that happened. We're now down around 10%, 12% because everybody's focused on overtime. And I can tell you, I said this, and they can take it back to our police folks last night, because we had a terrible night last night, 3 people killed in this city. I said, disregard anybody's concern about overtime. We've got November and December to get through. And I want everybody on the street. I want everybody drafted. We have got to get a handle on the violence. There are too many illegal guns on the streets of our city, and we don't have the numbers of police officers that we should have. So I had this conversation, Bill, with the President of the Senate, and yesterday I had this conversation with our Senator Ben Cardin. Because for me, whenever there's a problem, it's about how you're going to fix it. And the reality is that if we were to continue at the pace that we are, and the reason I share this with you is because this city has never looked at attrition rate versus hiring. We have never passed attrition rate for the last 7 years until last year when I said hire as many officers as we can, and we passed it by 3. So if we were to continue at the pace that we currently are, it would take us 30 years to hire 2,800 police officers because of the attrition rate. And so what I've said to President Miller, and I said to Ben Cardin, here's what we need. I've got to train officers for the attrition rate, but I also have to fill the gap of the 400 and some odd officers that we don't have in our city. So that requires me to double hiring. And the capacity of our training facilities is about 200, 250 at max. So what does that mean? What that means is that we'll be partnering with Coppin State University so that we could double hiring for our police department. So I guess the question people say, well, do you have enough people in the pipeline? The reality is yes. Because what I did notice when I first came into this position was that there were no computers in our police cars. In 1997, they started putting computers in police cars in Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Baltimore County, every jurisdiction but ours, because we didn't ask for them. So I went to the state and got the $2 million and put the computers in the police cars. But what we didn't do, again, was look at where we are and how we need to get there. So what I've said to both the President of the Senate and to our U.S. Senator is that we must double the training, which is going to cost me about $10 million and then another $40 million. I need that in our budget. The other thing is that I'm going to ask the state for $65 million so that we can put the computer system in our police department that is adequately needed. And so people say to me, why are you focused so much on the police department? Because everybody deserves to feel safe in this city. Building new schools, great, $1.2 billion. We're on track to build more new schools in the city of Baltimore than the entire state of Maryland, and still not enough, so we'll be back at the state for additional dollars. People moving into the city, yes. Millennials, you can't build fast enough because they want to live in downtown. We're one of the top 10 cities millennials want to live in. But people will move out when they don't feel that their city is safe. So that's why public safety is a #1 priority for me, and it should be a #1 priority for all of us. And so I ask you, as we continue to move this city forward, that I need the message to be real clear, that I will do whatever is necessary to improve public safety so that we can continue to grow businesses in this city, so that we can continue to lure people to this city, and so that we can build a future for the young people in our city. That is my pledge to all of you. Among my other priorities certainly is growing business in the city. And as you well know, many of you probably were around when we had the commitment, when Bloomberg, president of Goldman Sachs, and all came to Baltimore to make that commitment. They made a commitment of $10 million to help us build businesses, small businesses in this city. And I can tell you, and Bill will tell you, that some years ago I wrote a proposal about how to grow small business in the city if you would just allocate $5 million. And so fast forward, here we are with $10 million to grow small business. Of course, I was a state senator, Bill, then, and so nobody paid much attention to it. There are those in this room that I've known for decades because, you know, oftentimes when people look at mayors, they think they were social workers or educators or whatever, and they can be that. But I've been a business person all my life. I started out as a banker, was recruited by every single bank in this city. My master's is in business. I worked for the Council for Equal Business Opportunities because I wanted to help African Americans specifically to start and expand their businesses because they didn't have access to revenue, to capital. At that time, at the Council for Equal Business Opportunities, we had a MESBIC. So we were able to match our funds 3-to-1 to create opportunities for African Americans and other minorities to start and expand their businesses. It was one of the pride moments in my life. And then I went on to work for a mayor for a number of years who said that this business of being a city requires intense focus. Believe it or not, I was asked if I wanted to work for the mayor, and I think any 20-some-odd-year-old, if somebody asks you if you want to work for the mayor, it's like, sure, yes. Clueless, didn't even know what the job was, said yes. And I walked into the office, and they said, your job is Director of Citizens Involvement. I didn't know what that meant. But what it meant was that I was the director of the city's crime prevention program. And people tell me, they ask me, so why do you spend so much stuff on this? Because I know this stuff. You know, the mayor used to say, your responsibility is to go out into the communities and neighborhoods and make people feel safe. And so as I always do, I research programs all around the country. And so whatever the latest thing was going on in some city, I was bringing it to Baltimore. I used to do commercials late on Channel 45, giving what I called my crime tip of the day. And I remember walking past a woman, and she said to me, my God, you must be tired. And I'm like, I just saw you 3 a.m. this morning on Channel 45, giving us our crime prevention tip for the day. But I've also been in business, as many of you know, owning a newspaper for a number of years, African American News and World Report, because I was teaching, I was also an assistant professor of business at Morgan State University, and I was teaching a marketing class. And I had my class do a survey to ascertain the opinion of African Americans in our city. And it was so negative that I thought it was important to create a publication that would tell our story in a positive way. And so for 7 years, making no money, but having a wonderful time, we went all around the country to bring back ideas on how to improve the image of African Americans. But one thing I thought I was, Bill, when I was the publisher of African American News, was the ambassador for Baltimore. So if somebody would come new to town, like Reg Murphy, when he was the publisher of the Baltimore Sun, I would call you up, Anthony, and I would say, hi, this is Catherine Pugh, publisher of African American News and World Report. I'd just like to welcome you to Baltimore. And when I did that to Reg Murphy, I could hear the sigh in his voice, like he was running down the list and my name wasn't on it. And he said, I heard his secretary come in, and she said, Reg, your guests are here now. And he said, Imogene, tell them I'll be right there. And he quickly came back the phone to me, and he said, maybe we'll have tea one day, and nice talking to you. Hung up the phone so quickly I didn't even hear the end of his sentence. But I did hear him say Imogene. So as soon as he hung up the phone, I picked up the phone, I called Imogene. I said, Imogene, just got through talking to Reg. He said to set up tea. And so what was supposed to be a 15-minute conversation turned out to be an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And 3 months later, Reg Murphy called me back, and he said, there's a person I'd like to hire. I said, how can I help you? He said, it's you. I said, are you leaving? I said, I'm a publisher too. Your job is the only job at the Sun papers I would ever want. But it built a relationship. And I know that many of you, John, remember that publication because you might have been featured in it. I created the 50 leading black business list. I started out with a publication called African American History in Baltimore. And in fact, if you go to the library and they ask you about, and you're looking for something on black history, you might get copies of that publication. And Tim Watts was on the radio that morning when the publication came out. And Tim said, everybody needs to go out and get this. I've never seen anything like this before. And Reg Murphy called me up toward the end of the day. He said the Sun papers had sold out. He said, what's next? And that began the creation of 5 different supplements every single year in the Sun papers for 8 years, featuring African Americans, black history, blacks in business, black professionals, blacks in arts and entertainment, and blacks in health. And I've seen since then publications emanate that 50 leading black business lists, and I've seen businesses grow, and I've seen businesses fold. And so being in this role, I understand how important it is for us to grow, stimulate, and support small business. You know, it's one thing to provide funding for business, but it's another thing to be able to provide business and management education. And that's what our Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Initiative does. And then it also creates access to capital, another thing that is always a part of the downfall of many of our small businesses. And then the business support services that so many of our businesses are in need of. I also want to thank Kaiser Permanente for their effort in helping us to grow and expand small business in this city. It's one thing when companies and corporations come from the outside, but it's another thing when an industry inside of your city says, we want to be a part of the growth of small business in this city. You know, I tell folks that everything I've done in my career has prepared me for this moment. You know, I remember being dean and director of Strayer Business College, a small business college where 98% of the folks who went there were women who were struggling, just trying to get back into the workplace. So, you know, it's one thing to train, but it's other to provide the opportunity to work. And oftentimes we think that training programs should training program over here and then to job. The reality is that there's so many people out there that need to be trained, but the reality is they can't train because they need to work. So the combination is what really works if we want to change the workforce of tomorrow. And then you got to remember that we've got 10,000 returning citizens that come back to this city every single year. If we don't help them get work, they become our problem. If we don't help them today, they become our problem tomorrow. And so when I became mayor, one of the things I said was that I'm going to go out to the neighborhoods. I'm not going to wait for people to come and apply for jobs. So I said I'm going to create a mobile unit, go out to the neighborhoods and communities. Last year, 2017, I said to one of my staff persons who ran the department of one of our departments, I said to her, and I said this to every single agency, and Bill, you know this. I said, I need you all to think outside of the box. We cannot continue to do things the same old way, because you do them the same old way, you get the same results. I said, people in this city need to work. And so the Department of Human Resources, the director then, Mary Talley, said, I want to do this big event at the convention center. And I can tell you, her first version, we called it the Mercedes version. She wanted to do it over 60 days. She wanted to do all kinds of training. And I said, Mary, no, go back. Bring us a Volkswagen and a Buick version. And we landed somewhere in the middle. And what she did was she conducted 180 some odd workshops across the city over a 30-day period. She developed a closet for women and men who couldn't afford to get dressed to go do an interview. Online, 3,000 some odd people signed up to participate. The computer crashed on the day of the event because there were so many people lined up to get in, people literally crying because they had never seen anything like this before. And so not only did she measure what took place in that event, she listed 10 lessons learned. She had data from the time from what school you went to, education, gender, race, and what jobs you were seeking. She surveyed the employers as well as those who were seeking employment. And so at the end of the day, the reason I share this with you is because she's no longer with us because of an investigation. But I don't want the investigation to get or to be weighed down by the media saying that the event costs too much money. And what I said to them was, first of all, it was raised privately. But if you were building a house for the first time, it might cost you more. But the second time you build that house, it will cost you less. And in fact, our 2017 event cost us less. But it was her work that laid the groundwork for the future, and I don't want us to ever forget that. And then, you know, I think about all the things that people think that a mayor should know or shouldn't know or don't need to know. And Bill and Neil will tell you that a budget doesn't get done in this city unless I've reviewed it. Because I understand, I'll never forget, Paul, when I walked into my first finance meeting. And Joan Pratt will tell you that everybody's head turned around. And I leaned over to Joan, I said, well, what's up? She said, girl, I've been here for 24 years. No mayor has ever attended this finance meeting. They send someone in their place. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how a city functions or how you run a city if you don't understand the finances. I understand the finances of our city. I understand where our city needs to go and how it can grow. Reducing violence, growing small business, because small business is the backbone of this country. If we're not supporting it, if we're not growing it, if we're not rebuilding neighborhoods and communities outside of downtown, our problems will confront us tomorrow. I'm real clear. You can't even deal with homelessness and drug addiction if you're not willing to build houses for the homeless. Because you can't treat people laying in the street because they'll be standing on your corner, or like in Portland and Seattle, laying in the footprint of your five-star hotels. And people scream about squeegee kids on our corners and so forth. Well, go to New Orleans, where every 50 feet somebody's banging on a trash can asking you for money. Sustainable solutions is what we must come to if we're going to solve the problems of our city. And just last year, we took 27 individuals, young people, off of the corners of our streets. And I can tell you that we learned so many lessons. One, you can't pop up a car wash today and don't pop it up tomorrow, because I'm going back to the corner where I know I can get money. It's called sustainable solutions. And that's what we're focused on when we talk about growing these businesses. That's why we are providing these kinds of services, because we don't want the businesses to pop up today and be gone tomorrow. So when I walked into City Hall, there was a deal on the desk, one that had not gotten done, and it was to sell city garages. And I'm sure there were people lined up to buy them. And I always think in the back of my head, if somebody's so eager to buy something, what is it worth? Maybe I shouldn't be selling them. It's like your water systems. All across this country, somebody wants to privatize water. And I say to folks, and I say this, I'm the biggest advocate at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Before you make that decision to sell your water system, ask yourself, how much is it worth? And what's going to happen if you sell it? Because you get this one-time infusion of big cash, and then your water bills will continue to rise because they've got to make money too. So we're not privatizing our water system, but we've got to fix it. And so water prices will continue to rise unless we get the federal help that we need, and that's what Ben Cardin is focused on. But we, as a city, have a responsibility. So I didn't sell the garages. And thanks to Bill and others, we put together a package that allowed us to lease our garages so that we still derive income. And then, because there are buildings, and we paid off the debt to them, after we floated bonds and raised some $80 million, paid off the debt, and we netted some $57 million to create the Neighborhood Investment Fund. The Neighborhood Investment Fund will provide $2 million to community groups and organizations that aren't in the downtown area. Community groups and organizations that want to see the revival of their city in neighborhoods that have been left uninvested in for decades. And then another $3 million will go to community development corporations so that they can become stronger and own some of those properties in those neighborhoods and dictate who should move into their communities. And so we're focused with the $75 million that we have in core money to help us tear down or rebuild neighborhoods and communities. And just to show you an example of what we've been able to do, in a short period of time, not even using the Neighborhood Investment Fund. We got $1.2 billion to build new schools in our city. But in some of those neighborhoods, as we were walking out of the Pimlico Elementary School and middle school, beautiful brand new school, we looked across the street and guess what we saw? Boarded up houses, houses with roofs falling down. That's not what we want our children to see when they're walking out of those schools, because it doesn't give them the hope that they need. And so our department, the housing department, laid the foundation for those houses, came up with grant money for the people in those neighborhoods whose roofs are falling down, and then lured a developer into that area, and we were able to rehab those houses. Now those people who are paying $900 a month rent can get a house for $700, a mortgage for $700 a month. That's investing in the people who live in your city. And this is how people are really feeling now about government. We had grant money. Fix your house up. Scared? No. Literally had to walk over and knock on the door and say, this is for you. You've been here. You've invested here for 40 some odd years or so. You deserve this infusion, and we can help you. And now they're seeing that we're for real. We can change this city. And that's what small business is about. It's not just about building houses, because with houses come needs, business needs. Whether it's the cleaners or the bakery or the coffee shop or the supermarket, people have needs. And everything can't be done online. You're not going to be able to get your hair cut online unless you want to just learn how to do it. We can teach you that online. But if you're used to going to that barber, then you're going to look for somebody local, or your hairdresser, or your cleaners, and all those other things. So I'm excited about the direction that our city is going. But more importantly, I'm excited for all of you, because you are part of the fabric of our city that can bring the change that we need to see. I made Baltimore City Community College free. I made it free because I want our children to dream beyond what they see every day. I don't want parents worrying about whether they can get their child a secondary education. I don't want that worry on them. And I can tell you, after the announcement of making Baltimore City Community College free, when I walked past Gilmore Homes, a mother came running out and said, thank you, because I can send my child to college now. And when I was walking down the halls of Renaissance, 2 young men yelled out the classroom, I'm going to Baltimore City Community College. And when I was checking out at Whole Foods, the young lady said, I'm a Mayor Scholar. That's the hope that we can bring to our children. And they should not have to worry about whether they go or not go. Every child does not need to go to college. Every child doesn't want to. But every child who desires should be able to. And after we did that, Coppin State University said you can come here free. And Johns Hopkins said if you maintain a 4.0, you can come there for free. And I have news for Johns Hopkins, because I was sitting beside an 8th grader, and I told her, she said she was going to be a neuro, I couldn't even pronounce it. And I said to her, I said, well, that's great. And so I said to her, I need to introduce you to the dean of the medical school of University of Maryland. She said, well, but I'm going to Johns Hopkins. I said, oh, then I need to introduce you. I said, did you know that if you maintain a 4.0, you can go to Johns Hopkins University for free? Her response was, that's easy. So I said, I have to introduce you to the dean over there too. So we have young people in our community who are dreaming and want to reach their pinnacle, but we have to make sure they can do that. I just left Detroit, City Labs. And here's a lesson that we all must learn. And when I say that every child doesn't have to go to college, the reality is that many of the jobs of the future, because we're going to be cybersecurity, USA, Baltimore, Port Covington, 13 cybersecurity companies have already planted their flag there. By next year, it'll be 30. So what does that say? That says the jobs are going to be here. They're growing here, manufacturing growing here. But how prepared are we? How prepared are our young people today to be able to take advantage of those jobs tomorrow? And I said to all of the folks in Detroit when I was leaving, because they did an interview, I said, if we take nothing else from here, let's take back to our cities that we must begin Microsoft training, computer training, coding in the elementary school. And that we should be preparing our children for work at the age of 12 and 14. Their summer job should not be, even if their summer job should not just be an experience or just doing mediocre work. It should be a preparation for the workforce. That too becomes a part of your responsibility. So every year, when we're doing our Youth Works program, I need you all to take in consideration assisting our young people. I'm excited about the work that this organization has done, Eben. I'm excited for all the work that's being done in our city. But I can tell you that it is not without trials and tribulations or without error, because nobody is perfect among us. But I can tell you that you'll have no more honest an effort than the effort that I will put forth and my team will put forth. Because as I've always said from the very beginning, I don't get to do this work by myself. It's how we all contribute. And I thank you in advance for your contributions today and your contributions tomorrow. Thank you.
So at this time, we're gonna, let's give Mayor Pugh a round of applause again. Great job. So at this time, we're gonna recognize our corporate sponsors. I would like to bring our vice chair, our past chair, and our current chair up to the stage, please. So we're going to just keep this moving along. So I'm going to go ahead and call up our corporate sponsor. I'm going to ask him to come up to the stage. We're going to present the award to our the board member representative, and then we're going to award them with an award and a citation, take a picture, and then on to the next. So the first, I would like to recognize Johns Hopkins University of Medicine. If you could please come to the stage. Accepting the award today for Johns Hopkins University of Medicine is Damon Hughes and Kylie Patterson.
Okay, and the next certificate of recognition goes to BGE. Fabiola? Sheila?
It's a whole BGE representatives and employees want to join us?
Next up, McDonald's Corporation, Phil Cronin. And this one.
Okay, and the last one, I'm going to go ahead and read the citation we've been giving out. So, this certificate of recognition on behalf of the citizens of Baltimore, I am pleased to present this certificate to the Mayor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business in recognition of your continuous and generous support of the Baltimore City's Chambers of Commerce mission to serve as an economic and business development engine for the City of Baltimore. On behalf of the citizens of Baltimore, thank you for sponsoring the Baltimore City Chamber of Commerce Breakfast with the Mayor 2018. So now, the Mayor's Office. Paul Taylor. Without the support of our corporate sponsors, we wouldn't be here today. They mean a lot to us. They've been with the Chamber, very loyal to the Chamber for a very long time, and We are very appreciative for all that they do for us. So thank you very much, our corporate sponsors. Let's give them a round of applause once again. So next I would like to introduce our membership chair, former Baltimore Chamber of Commerce Business Development Advocate Award winner, Will Holmes of Will Holmes Consulting. As Mayor Pugh mentioned, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business, Will Holmes is a recruiter for that program. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can get involved and be a part of the future cohorts, Will's the person to talk to. Will?
Good morning. As Eben mentioned, I'm the membership co-chair. And we've worked very hard over the last year to not only grow our membership to over 250 organizations, but also to add greater value to what we offer members. This goes well beyond throwing successful networking events. We have focused on improving our onboarding process, and we have begun to test processes that connect members to resources offered by other members. But also, we've built great relationships with organizations outside of the chamber to ensure that we give members what they need to grow. If you look inside of your book, hopefully you'll see this orange piece of paper. We're very serious. We want to know what you think about how we're doing. If you have not been engaged, this is the time to get re-engaged. We're very serious. We want to know how you feel. We want to know if you're getting what you need in order to grow. So please take a minute before you leave today to fill this out. You can give it to me, or you can pass it up, or you can leave it at the desk before you leave. Our relationships include Baltimore Integration Partnership, the Small Business Resource Center, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program, Baltimore Business Lending, and many more. The purpose of these relationships is to ensure that, once again, we are helping you to grow. We want you to hold us accountable. If you have a need, we want you to tell us so that we can connect you. All these efforts are setting the foundation for a stronger chamber. And we are excited to see how these improvements will support the growth of our members in the upcoming year. So once again, I'll say it again. If you are a member and you have a need, let me or another board member know. We are here to help you. If you are not a member, but you have a desire to grow, access resources, add jobs, and help improve Baltimore's economy, we invite you to join the Baltimore City Chamber of Commerce. We don't need more members. Of course, I'm membership chair. I want a lot of people to join. I don't need just more people. We want people who are serious about the growth and the improvement of the city's economy. So if you're serious about that, please see me or any board member about becoming a member of the Baltimore City Chamber of Commerce. We'd like to share some success stories. First, I'd like to introduce Christina Lambie with Spirit Cruises. Christina, let's give her a round of applause. I believe in metrics. I'm a business consultant, so I measure metrics. And so it's important that we talk about the numbers, we talk about the growth of our members. It should be a no-brainer. Being a member of the chamber, you grow. So let's hear what Christina has to say about her experience so far with being a member of the Baltimore City Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all today. Yet again, another wonderful event, Evan. Chamber events kind of remind me a lot of my kids. They just keep growing. So it's very nice to see that and witness that. My name's Christina Lambie, and I'm here to share with you how being an active chamber member has helped me professionally. For those of you that don't know, I am actually the corporate account manager for Spirit Cruises here in Baltimore. And we operate the Spirit of Baltimore and the Inner Harbor Spirit, the big boats that you see at the Inner Harbor. And I've had the pleasure of being with the company for just about 2 years now. When I first came on board, I was given a task to find a networking group that would introduce me to the corporate world of Baltimore. I attended several networking events, and I'd find myself awkwardly pacing the room looking for someone to connect with. And at one event in particular, I met Mr. Steve Braun. I'm sure he's here somewhere, and I'm sure you probably all met him at one event or another. But he pretty much took me under his wing and introduced me to so many people in the room. And I just found myself wondering, how did he do this? How did he meet all of these people, and how did he make these connections? So it just, I hung with him for the rest of the event, and I made a lot of great connections. And then he said to me at the end of the meeting, and he says, there's an event next week that I think would be very beneficial if you attended for the Baltimore City Chamber of Commerce. And I thought about it, and I was like, why not? So I attended a meeting at Little Havana, and there I met Rich and Hannah. And they were just so awesome. And I told them that I was interested in joining the chamber, and they took me under their wing immediately and started bouncing ideas. Next thing I know, I'm assisting with the planning committee in Eben, and we're planning the first annual awards for the Chamber of Commerce on the boat. And it was an amazing event. Definitely one for the books. And I know I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces from the event. So it was definitely very beneficial. So since then, I joined the chamber in March, had our first event in June, and since that evening, I was able to book 15% of my annual goal for the entire year from that one event. 15% of my revenue came from other chamber members. So that is just incredible. I would receive phone call after phone call and emails telling me how wonderful the event was, and it's just, I always got the same story. I've been in Baltimore my entire life, and I've never been on the boats until then, and I am just completely blown away. And it's just amazing to hear. And being a member of the chamber has allowed me to not only make great connections, but it's also helped me showcase entertainment cruises and what we do best to many of you for the first time. And at the end of the day, it's also helped me grow our business in Baltimore with businesses in Baltimore, which is definitely the most important impact of them all. I thank the Baltimore City Chamber of Commerce for being so accommodating and being one of the best resources for me to utilize. This is exactly why you should become an active member or a member if you have not already done so. So let us hold your hand, just like Steve did for me, and introduce you to your resources and help grow your business. Thank you.
I want it to be a no-brainer, so I'm going to give you some more examples, okay? Next, Kimberly Scroggins with the Arc of Baltimore. Kimberly?
Good morning, Mayor Pugh, fellow chamber members and attendees. As many of you may know, the ARC Baltimore is a nonprofit agency dedicated to providing advocacy and high-quality, life-changing supports in Baltimore City and County to more than 6,000 adults and children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. With employment, corporate sponsorship, and awareness being some of our primary focuses, our relationship with the Baltimore City Chamber has proven to be invaluable. The various networking events held throughout the year afford us an opportunity to meet with many of the area businesses that we ordinarily would not have the privilege of meeting. In my experience over the past 2 years, brief conversations at events such as this one today, have it be about employment, giving back, has opened the door to long-lasting and mutually beneficial partnerships with other chamber members. When working with the population that may not necessarily be able to apply for or be hired in a traditional manner, relationship building is of the utmost importance, and the Chamber has allowed us to successfully do so. Through the efforts of our employment teams and our other committees, our affiliation with the Chamber has managed to have individuals intern at many of the Chamber businesses, such as Crown Trophy, Strategic Factory, Mahogany Inc., Chase Braxton, McDonald's, and right here at Horseshoe Casino. As your businesses continue to grow, or you would simply like to learn more about diversifying your workplace or giving back, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to speak with you. And again, make the most of your chamber membership.
How about Kurt Summer with the Baltimore Integration Partnership?
Good morning. I'm going to go off script here just for a minute and just say and recognize Eben and the Chamber for the amazing work that they're doing. So if I can just step back and just give a round of applause. So it's really good to be here. Many thanks for inviting me to speak. I've been partnering with the Chamber on many fronts over the past couple years, and most recently helped pull together and partner with Eben on a reverse vendor fair. We had over 150 businesses participate last January, and we have one more coming down the pipe, so stay tuned to learn a little bit more about that. So I run the Baltimore Integration Partnership. For those of you that may not know, it is the largest collaborative of anchor institutions in the country. We work with EDS and MEDS, higher education institutions and hospitals, to help drive and support their efforts to connect their spending, their hiring, and their reinvestment powers to support Baltimore City residents, Baltimore businesses, and communities around their campuses. And so as we look around the room, members of the Chamber are an important part of that success going forward. We need businesses to build bridges too, and we need the Chamber as a partner in our work. The institutions have done some amazing work over the last few years, and the work at Hopkins was recognized already by Kylie and Damon, but there's others around the room, and the mayor mentioned Kaiser's work. The institutions are not only working to build access points and new strategies to support area needs, but they're also working to build capacity. There are over 200 businesses participating in 7 business development programs led by the institutions or partnered by the institutions this year. 200 businesses. It's phenomenal, the work that's moving forward. But there's more work ahead for certain. And so I look forward to working with all of you at the Chamber event coming. We're working on a date in January to build new bridges and build access points between these institutions. The institutions spend billions of dollars annually. They employ 90,000 people. They're huge economic engines for the city of Baltimore, and we have to do more to access that. But we believe the institutions are also models for work that the business community can do. We believe that for us to make inroads into some of the challenges that the city faces in workforce, in unemployment, that we need to craft intentional strategies through economic inclusion. This past year, we pulled together a report called Collectively We Rise, the business case for economic inclusion. And the report identifies a variety of benefits for businesses and institutions in taking on economic inclusion strategies. They include better community relations, greater customer and employee satisfaction, a broader customer base, better capacity to attract and build talent, wider access to qualified vendors and better prices, and increased responsiveness from government. So as we move forward, I challenge you all to think about what intentional strategies you can make to help build bridges and economic opportunity in Baltimore. We have a number of sponsors here today, including the ARC and Paul's Place, and I saw Kathy Morgan from Empower that help build and prepare people for jobs. And think about how you can build a relationship with a workforce partner in Baltimore. Look around the room. Who are the business partners you could turn to in Baltimore to help stimulate and build jobs right here in the city? So I look forward to working with you all as we go forward. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce the chairman of the Baltimore City Chamber Board of Directors, Mr. Rich Kraft.
All right, good morning, still. All right, so finishing up here today, I just want to reiterate our appreciation for all our corporate sponsors and event sponsors. Please. And just as importantly, all of our membership. Each of our members that are here today, we've been achieving unprecedented growth as a chamber over the past several years, and we keep on breaking through that barrier. So each of you is the reason why we're able to keep going. Eben Frederick, who just walked, there he is. Thank you once again. Hand of applause, let's go. He just recently became a father, as we mentioned. I believe she's 2 months old today. So he's been able to put this together, of course, with his mother's help. Can't forget her. Sue, thank you in the back. We're really here just to help facilitate small business and corporate business in Baltimore. It's not just working with the small business owners. That's the entire message today, being the backbone of the city. We're here to connect you with those resources. If you're not sure the next people that you need to talk to or the resources you need to really take your business to the next level, we know those people. So if you're not sure what that really is, we know people to help you design a business plan. If you need a marketing strategy. So really just come to an event. If everyone can bring one person that they're not already a chamber member that might need help growing their business or just advancing in their career, bring them to an event, and that way we can get Eben more staff for support so that he doesn't have to do everything with a newborn. So, thank you everybody once again. Let you get on with your day. We'll see you next year, as well as our holiday party coming up as really our next big event for the year. Thank you again for coming, and meeting adjourned.